HTML element. Let's talk a little bit about HTML elements. An HTML element is defined by a start tag, some content, and an end tag. So we have a tag name over here. Why does it do that? Tag name over here, and then a tag name over here with the forward slash. The HTML element is everything from the start tag to the end tag. The end tag is always going to have the forward slash. That's how the computer knows. So H1 is one tag, and then the start tag, and then slash forward slash H1 is the end tag. Now you may ask, where did I get H1 from? Well, that comes from a list of HTML elements that you can become familiar with. There are many manuals and tutorials online in textbooks and so on. So H1 means heading one. It's a big heading. And then the content itself that's written by the person, and then the end tag. So what the browser is going to interpret this and make this as like a big heading. That's the H1 specification. So this will be written bold and big. P is for paragraph. So the whole element here is the P, the paragraph itself, which is of course more than 3 words. It's usually going to be very long. And then slash P at the end of the paragraph. Most tags have start and closing tags, but not all. So most, but not all. So sometimes you see some without, like the BR tag over here, which is a new line. It's a line, I'm sorry, line break, BR for break. So it breaks a line and then starts in a new line. If you don't have that, the computer's not going to break into a new line unless the page itself is squeezed within the browser, but which is usually what we want to do. There's a specific tag for comments, which are not processed. So you can add comments in the code and it looks like this. This is the start and this is the end. You have to identify the start and the end. So if you see here, this is the comment. It's kind of these 3, 1, 2, 3. It's almost like 4 characters. It's kind of long, 1, 2, 3, 4, dash, dash, this other way. So this is a comment about the PR tag. The BR tag is a line break that does not need a closing tag. And also this comment does not get processed. So once the computer reads this file here, you write all this in just a simple text file. And then you open with a web browser, and then the web browser recognizes, oh, HTML, okay, we're gonna have a body. It's gonna render here name of page in a big heading. It's not gonna show any of this, and it's gonna start, and it's gonna show this is my page about and so on. HTML attributes. Elements and tags also have attributes which determine the name and quality of the tag. Attributes usually have a value which may be text or numeric. So got to recognize here the difference between these two things and how they work. Attributes and the value. Value is not just number. Value can be text or numeric. And the value can be more complex too. You can refer to like other attribute combinations. All HTML elements can have attributes. Attributes provide additional information about the element. Attributes are always specified in the start tag, not the end tag. Attributes usually come in a name value pairs like this. Name equals attribute. Name equals first section. So this is the attribute here, name, and then this is the value. Notice that text value is usually going to be in quotes. Hyperlinks use the A tag in the following syntax. So hyperlink tag is actually A. So you begin the A tag, open the beginning of the tag, you write A, and then space, and then this is the attribute here. This is how we add the attributes within the element, within the tag. Attribute name, and you may ask, how do I know about the attribute name? Well, no, because I went to this website here and they have the list of the attribute names. So href, hyperlink reference, equals, and then this is the value. Notice because this is a text value, we put it in quotes. Now this is actually going to be the link of this one phrase here. This is a link. So the web browser is going to render like this, and it's going to be a clickable phrase on the web browser that goes to the site here. And this is not going to be shown by the web browser. You can still see it once you explore behind the scenes, but it's not going to be shown immediately. Some more about attributes. So the hyperlink tag looks like that. Image tag looks like this. So it's an image, and then source is an attribute. It's not the only attribute of the image, but it's the main one. And then here's the value. Now the value in this case of the src attribute is actually the address or the name of the image to be rendered. So if you want your web page to render an image, you need to identify the address of that image itself. You have to have the image file itself. And you do it this way over here. Now, image tag with required alt attribute. So the image tag has more than one attribute. Usually has the src source, which is this, and then may have other attributes like alt. Alt is alternative name. And you can say, okay, the name, alternative name is not just going to be this, it's going to be girl with a jacket. Okay, we got to talk a little bit about styling. Styling is how to render the HTML attributes. And this has more to do with CSS, which we'll get back to in the future lecture. But the idea is that you have three ways to specify attributes for the tags. Now, one way to specify it is the whole external style sheet. And that's kind of what we're going to get to later. But maybe we can kind of talk a little bit about the internal styling. I think it's maybe easier to understand first. So this is called inline styling. So imagine you need your web page to make to display an image. And you notice that I'm writing just black and white here, so you guys can, so we can see the color really doesn't make a difference. Color is not an important attribute. And it's good to kind of understand here and focus on the content. So open tag img, okay, this is going to be an image tag. src is the source attribute. This is the tag name. This is the attribute. It's called the attribute for short. This is the value. The value is the address. So all the value for src attribute has to be, it's always expecting a file name like this. And then style is an attribute. This is also an attribute of the image tag. But notice this value here. This is kind of this is almost like a list. The value is not just one value, is multiple values. Multiple values separated by a semicolon. So it's almost like another set of attributes and value pairs. And we're kind of getting a little bit like Inception, if you know that movie Inception, the dream within the dream within the dream. Well, this is like this. We have the attribute and then the value, and the value has an attribute and a value inside, and multiple of them. So here, this is the value of the width attribute, and this is the value of the height attribute. Now, to know how to write this, we don't just kind of make it up, width and height. Once again, we need to know the structure, and you always have to read the manual, RTM, read the manual. And over here with color, so if you want to style a paragraph tag, it's usually the word style equals, and then you can do some basic things like color, colon, red, semicolon, another one, font size, colon, 20 points. So notice how these are attribute value pairs and so on. And now there are other ways to style too. You can style internally within the HTML, and we can also style completely external via CSS. And I'm actually going to let us explore this on another set of lectures. Let's talk a little bit about the HTML URL. So just because there's two kinds of URLs that we can use within the HTML site. We can use the absolute URL and we can use the relative URL. The absolute URL links to an external image that is hosted on another website. So for example, if you have an image tag and you have the source attribute, src equals, and then you want to link to an image on another website, you can add just the whole address here, and that's the beauty of the URL. You can, from your own web page, you can link to an image. You see there's the image here that is located on another website, on another computer, and maybe in another country, probably on planet Earth, but in another country maybe. No, external images might be under copyright. So if you do not get permission to use it, you may be in violation of copyright laws. In addition, you cannot control external images. It can suddenly be removed or changed. So if this external site is not your own site, you got to be careful when you link to images on an external site like this, because then who knows what they're going to do with the image, tomorrow. Now, the relative URL that we use links to an image that is hosted within the website itself. Here, the URL does not include the domain name. It does not need to include it. If the URL begins without a slash, it will be in reference to the current folder. So, example, so you have the image tag, we have the source attribute, src equals, and then we can just identify the name of the file. Now, this assumes that this file over here is in the same location of HTML file making a reference to it. Okay, so that's how you can get away with that. Now, if the HTML file, if the image file is in another folder, then you can do it like this. You can identify the folder itself and then where the image is by the same directory addressing that we use in our computer operating system and that we use for other URLs.